Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rule the Roost podcast. Welcome back. Hello, Phil. It's been a while.
Hello there. Hello to you.
How are you?
Oh, wonderful. So good. Just everything's just going so well.
You're enjoying the miserable inertia of Tottenham Hotspur as much as everyone else, I assume?
Oh, yeah. I don't like things moving in any direction other than down, so it's good. I like fading away. That's what I like.
Well, then you've come to the right place, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You've checked into the right hotel. Are there any other metaphors?
I don't know. They've probably not got my reservation. Got to turn around and go home.
You've cut open the right baked potato. I don't even know where this is going.
Is that one? This is better than actually talking about Spurs. So let's just keep doing this. Yeah,
it's way better. Look, let's chuck you in at the deep end, mate. Christian Stellini, right? Seems like a good lad, doesn't he? We've spoken about this. Seems like a nice fella.
Yes.
But it's quite a weird decision to keep him and Conte's backroom staff on and sack Antonio Conte, isn't it? Really now.
It's apathetic, isn't it, Jack? It's just. I mean, you say how many seasons have we written off other than last season and any season that we kind of creep into the Champions League? It just feels that there's just been so many of these over the last 20 years where we're just like, oh, well, I guess this is what we start thinking about the machinations of next season. And next season, like tomorrow, never comes, does it?
It doesn't seem to for Tottenham, does it?
No.
So, look, we've had Pochettino, let's be honest, winking at us for the past 6 months, playing golf and firing up his barbecue and all that sort of thing.
Just wandering past the training ground. Oh, all right, fancy seeing you here.
Right.
Like peering over the fence, yeah.
But for whatever reason, we just don't seem keen. We've gone sort of all in for... I think when Nagelsmann came up, right, buy and let him go, we were action stations. He's going to Chelsea, so that's been scuppered.
Yeah.
We all know that one's happening, right? Let's not be under any... I know Enrique's apparently done them a dossier, and let's be honest, Nagelsmann's going to Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
De Zerbi ain't interested. Are we going to end up with another fucking Nuno Espirito Santo summer, where we don't go near Pochettino, we keep thinking we might, and we end up with some... what's his name? What's that Portuguese fella who... Oh, he's actually doing all right with a mid-table French team. Come on, man. The Zorro lad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fonseca. Is it Fonseca?
Fonseca's the guy that we tried to get before Nuno, who then decided... I think he realised he would have to pay too much tax or something. And then it fell through, which is just that's a shambles on his part, to be fair, for Christ's sake.
It's just his club, man. What is it?
I don't know. How is it? How are we always like the torchbearer just for absolute nonsense? It's just I don't know what's in our DNA, but yeah, going back to our manager search, it seems like we have tipped the first domino by sacking Conte. Tuchel. We thought about him, and then Bayern obviously were like, oh, hang on a minute, we want him, so they got him. Nagelsmann then becomes available. Same thing happens. Chelsea are like, nah, we're not letting him go to Tottenham, we're having him. And essentially we end up with Brendan Rodgers. If we were going to have Poch, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. He'd already be in post. So there's obviously a reason, and maybe we'll get into that in a bit, about why we haven't pulled the trigger. As you say, Poch is literally there, trousers down, waiting for us, and we just haven't progressed anything. There's a reason for that, in my opinion. So yeah, all roads point to Brendan Rodgers, unfortunately, I think.
Well, see, I was very, very worried about this, but on the Athletic pod this week, they were saying that there's some... that apparently we were on the verge of signing. I think we got a bit Sadio Mane'd again. We were on the verge of signing him. He was supposed to be coming in to sign the papers, and then Liverpool got on the blower, said, actually, do you want to come and manage Liverpool?
Rodgers.
Yeah, and just dropped everything and fucked up there.
Yeah.
And it seems that Daniel Levy has felt kind of bitterly scorned by that ever since.
Are we really going to be, like, as in you and I, going to start talking ourselves into Brendan Rodgers? Is that the level we're at now? Is that what we've... accepted.
I mean, as we sort of said with Conte, right? We knew with Conte, you'd get a year out of him tops, and then it would fall to pieces because he'd want more and more money. Brendan Rodgers, I'll happily say, it will probably be a really good laugh for about a year and a half. We'll play some sort of decent enough football, but then it will absolutely fall to pieces, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly what happened. And the laugh, I don't know who will be laughing, whether it be us or other people at our expense, or us laughing at him. I don't know. I just feel like it's really not a big boy move, and that isn't necessarily kind of getting ideas above our station. If we are trying to be a big club, then I just don't think Brendan Rodgers is going to. It doesn't fit that.
Why are we talking about this in any sense?
I've said his name today more often than I've said his name in 5 years. What's happened?
Other than being like, did you see the David Brent type thing that he did? That's the only sort of conversation anybody should be having about Brendan Rodgers.
It should be the be all and end all of his. But no, here we are. Just talking ourselves into it like it's a good idea, like it's going to be beneficial, like it'll be fun. Oh, Christ. Oh, that dead air speaks volumes, I think.
Well, it does, mate, because I'm just like, the thing is, I'm trying to kind of think of a way to guide this so it's not completely and utterly negative, and I'm not accused of, sucking the life out of Spurs, but they're doing that quite well themselves at the moment, right? I honestly feel like this is maybe even worse than Sherwood. That kind of, because that's kind of that's one of the big memorable times I can remember a lot of people being pretty checked out.
Yeah, it's definitely comparable to me. I remember, I'm just trying to put myself back in the mindset of Tim Sherwood. I absolutely hated Tim Sherwood. I hated the club for everything that was going on. I just couldn't bear it. And I guess I'm there at the moment as well. It feels a bit different. I think it's because we, around the sort of Sherwood era, it looked like we weren't even going to start climbing up the mountain. At this point, it feels like we are just slipping further and further and down the other side. So that, I don't know what that metaphor says, but it feels a bit different in that sense. But yeah, I just can't bear to look at the Tottenham Hotspur crest at the moment.
Well, that's a very sort of decent point you touch on there, because I think for the first time, really, I guess you sort of had it in waves, Joel, Redknapp, but those lads were still always sort of knocking on the door. It felt like we'd come through the door and sat down at the table with Pochettino, but we hadn't started eating yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were kind of there. And
yeah,
now
we were waved away. We were told to leave.
Well, that's
they had proper stuff to talk about.
We've been kicked out again now, right? And I think part of this kind of this feeling, this apathy that many of us are having, is that football also feels quite kind of buggered at the moment, right? Like, Tottenham are buggered, but they are inside of a completely buggered system because I mean, look at Newcastle, man. Look how far ahead they are in their pursuit of, domination. They're going to get in the Champions League this year already.
Yeah. What? Yeah, I think that is the big sort of looming problem with us, that we're all coming to the realization that to unbugger ourselves, we're just going to have to be one of the worst clubs, the clubs that we've all, look down our noses at for how they've gone about their success. And I think that's a real problem. It's either carry on like this and just being a nonsense, or the only it seems like the only route. And it's not our fault necessarily. It's just the way football's gone, as you say. We just have to get in bed with the devil, and then it's just it's hard. It's so hard to justify accepting that, I think.
What about that lot up the road, though? They're sort of doing all right, aren't they?
Yeah. So, of course, and so whatever we say, whatever we try and tell ourselves, Arsenal are always there to kind of make us, prove us wrong. And they've done that. And that's another thing. I think it's partly Arsenal being top of the league. Like, I know you and I have spoken about, you've spoken about them here loads of times. This is made 10 times worse, or even 100 times worse, with Arsenal being at the top. But it's also the way that they've done it as well, that they haven't, got a Qatari or a Saudi regime to buy their club. They're doing it the way that Enoch and Levy was telling us that we were going to do it, and they've managed it and we haven't. And I think that's another one of these. It's so hard to swallow, and it's so hard to reconcile. And of course, it has to be them that have done it. If it was somebody else, if it was, I don't know, Liverpool have already done it, but yeah, it just makes it so much worse and so much more miserable.
It's their Pochettino,
Yeah,
and
yeah. He was drawing pictures of brains and hearts holding hands. How has this happened, Jack?
I know. He's holding up light bulbs. He was getting photographers to do fucking team speeches before a North London derby. Like, what the fuck?
What timeline is this?
Like,
what have I done? It's all Lucas Moura's fault.
Some fucking penance, isn't it?
It is.
I think it was Musa Okwonga that said something about like Tottenham fans are regretting selling their souls for Amsterdam now.
It does feel like that. It does feel like that. It's like people just praying at half time, I'll give anything, I don't care, just let this be good. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is a direct mystical result of that. But yeah.
How much of this do you attribute to, because I've been fairly on the fence about Levy and the ownership and everything for a long time now, but I'm honestly, my patience is, I'm hard, but my patience is like,
oh, look out everyone. He's got an opinion.
Look out, Daniel. There's a podcaster who's not very happy with you. But I'm not very happy with Enoch, Phil. I'm not very happy at all.
Yeah.
Because we were sort of talking, you go down that memory lane of Martin Yole and Harry Redknapp and the sort of signings we made, getting in and getting a young Michael Carrick, bringing in a Luka Modric and selling both of them as well. Let's not forget. But still, making these kind of smart, progressive signings, building a team around the likes of Aaron Lennon, Tom Huddlestone. Where's it all gone wrong, mate? Why have we suddenly, why have we gotten so high on our own supply? We suddenly turned that corner just about under Pochettino. Like I say, came in the front door, sat down at the dinner table. Dad's sharpening the knives. Do you know what I mean? We're about to carve the turkey. Then all of a sudden, we start telling everyone else around the table, actually, no, that's not how you carve it. And we get kicked out again.
Yeah.
Do you know,
we were sitting on the little chair from the front room. The little chair that no one wants to sit on.
Yeah, oh, he's around here. Go on, give him that one.
Yeah, go on, he'll sit on that. Nan can't sit on that. He'll sit on that.
But before I strain this metaphor any further, how have we just seemingly lost all? Because I don't fully buy, and I hate even feeling compelled to still in some way defend sort of the ownership or the direction of the club. But this idea that he's never had an idea. I don't think that's true. I don't think we could be in the position that we're in now if there wasn't a plan, and if there wasn't a kind of a mission statement that was circulated within the club. But it just seems to be completely just all over the place now. Nothing at all seems to make any sense. Nothing.
Yeah, and to paraphrase Logan Roy, I love you, but you're not serious people.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. We've mucked about, and this is probably a bit anecdotal, but obviously there's been a lot of focus on Paratici and what he's now gone or half gone or whatever, but what he brought to the club and the sort of level of responsibility he had in the club. And it was mentioning things like, bringing in a sports scientist or a sports psychologist even. And you're like, why didn't we have this sort of thing before?
Yeah, it's
just because there's been so...
I swear Arsene Wenger brought this in the fucking 90s.
Yeah. It's just... I think that's kind of indicative of the fact that we've just... The footballing side has been a massive undersight. Is that a word? Or oversight? A massive oversight. Yeah. I understand. This is the thing. You can break it down, especially like with Conte and everything. You're like, Conte's to blame, and he's like, well, what he's saying isn't untrue. You know, it's not the players' fault. It is the players' fault. It's Levy's fault. It isn't. It's all of their faults individually. That's the reality of it. There have been massive mistakes made at board level. Conte should have done much better with what he was being paid to do, and the players can fuck off as well. You know.
Yeah.
But in terms of the ownership, it just feels like there's just very strange decisions being made that really don't align even with what we cynically think they're about, as in just get top four, nothing else matters, because we're risking even that. It doesn't make any sense. So it feels like a dereliction of duty. I understand why there has to be such a focus on one side of the club about commercial revenues and stuff. I don't think anyone can argue that. Yeah, I know it's funny to point out the F1 karting track, but as long as that brings in some money, like, who cares? It doesn't. Yeah. The stadium stands empty for most of the year, right? Literally only on our home games that it's actually being used by the football team. So, you know, make it a cash cow. Get as much money coming into the club as possible. But it just seems like that has become a bit of an obsession, and we're getting all this money, getting all this revenue streams, and we don't actually know how to implement it properly. Again, we spent money, just spend it so badly and so strangely. It just doesn't make any sense. Again, this is why the Paratici thing is such an issue as well. And of course it is, because just when things are starting to look right, we get someone in who's turns out he's a criminal and can't practice football across the world. It's just like, how has that situation been allowed to happen? It's not like this. These scandals were, first of all, should have taken us by surprise that he was getting banned from world football, and the fact that even when we hired him, the investigations were going on prior to that as well. So how can the club, how can ENIC, how can Levy, however you want to package it, how can you defend that sort of a decision making? It's absurd.
Look at for example now, mate. Right, this is the in a microcosm. We've got this situation right now where we don't have a fucking manager. Right, we don't know what type of football we're going to be playing next year, and it sounds like we're tabling offers of £50 million for James Maddison, who I think in theory, I've been very against it for a long time, but now I'm pretty much one of the main problems with our team this year has been creativity outside of Harry Kane. Mm-hmm. If he's available and he's keen, he's obviously a pretty decent player. He's an obnoxious twat and all the rest of it, but he seems like a decent player. But what we're doing going on, like, if it is to be believed, and I'd imagine it is to be, because it seems to be fairly widely reported that we're in conversations with Leicester. Why are we spending £50 million on a player that might not suit the system of whoever it is that we're bringing in next year? Like, I just don't.
It's who Brendan Rodgers wants, mate. That's why.
Dear, please don't.
But yeah, you're right. So we talk about what manager can we get in, and what's you have to look at our squad. What's more likely? We get a manager in that we are happy to clear the decks for and say, okay, how do you want to play? And we'll build a squad in your image. Or do we get a manager and say, you have to work with this lot? Yeah, we'll make some changes in the summer, but we're not going to get the wholesale throwing all the babies out with all the bathwater. So I just don't this is the problem. After the Everton game, after Conte getting sacked and then Stellini being in charge, I just can't get my head around the sense behind it all. And you're just left sort of speechless, essentially. You know, we all like talking about Spurs and the ins and outs of everything throughout the season, throughout the years, throughout the decades. So I'll stop messaging you about it then, sorry. But I'm just at a loss now. I'm just like, even, you know, you can look at something from all angles and try and understand different points of view and everything. I'm just like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand what we're doing. And, you know, I'm an intellectual, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't understand it, obviously there's something wrong.
How's Bob Average down the pub? How's he supposed to feel about it with his pint of bitter? You know,
pork scratchings down at the Slug at Lettuce.
It's just for once, mate. For one of the few times, it doesn't happen often. I'm pretty lost for words, though. You know, because what are we like? What are we clinging on to at the moment? Well, this vague hope that we'll finish in the top four, which, you know, I don't think we should ever kind of be in a place where we sort of knock the opportunity of Tottenham being in the Champions League or anything. But it doesn't feel like, number one, it doesn't feel like we deserve it at the moment, right? It's skipping straight to dessert. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like, we haven't...
Are you hungry or something, mate? It's like, you've been using lots of dinner time analogies.
Yeah, I am quite hungry, actually. I'm on because I had root canal filling, you know, the other day.
Yeah.
So I'm not really eating anything at the moment. I'm just having yogurts, you know.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm Hank Marvin, to be honest. That's funny how it's manifested in this way, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Sorry, I interrupted what you said.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't saying anything of note, was I? Just
skipping straight to dessert about Champions League.
Well, yeah, you know, we sort of, that's supposed to be the destination, right? Look at it, Newcastle, right? I mean, they're sort of skipping. They've skipped their starters, right? They're on the main course. Just stop with the fucking metaphors today, all right? All right. Basically, Newcastle.
Run out of things to say. They're rely on metaphors.
Well, they're ahead of like where they should be, right? Newcastle, but they're still. It feels like they've built towards that. Nah, fuck Newcastle. I'm not giving that to them. I'm not giving it to them. You know, I'm not.
No.
I just
don't fall into Sky Sports' trap.
No, I just feel that, you know, with us, we get into the Champions League. It's invariably it's good for Tottenham, right? It's good for us to be in that competition. It's good for our name to still be bandied around in the sort of company that's in that competition. But is it right for us right now? Is it right for us to continue to have that pressure where if we do get in there, maybe there will be more of that thought of, whoa, well, actually, we've got to bring in a Luis Enrique or someone now because we're in the Champions League again and there's going to be a lot of eyes on us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing about the Champions League qualifications for me and seeing it as such a necessity, I told myself that it was, well, we need the income. We get there. It helps us to build. We keep doing it. We build, and that's when we start winning things. But it seems to be, and it'll probably be the same this and next season, where, say if we somehow snuck into the Champions League this season, it's not an impossibility because Man United potentially could drop away quite a lot, and so who knows? We could just get there by default, sort of like how we did last season. That almost weakens the position that I think we all agree that we need to be in, where we need a proper clear out because these players aren't good enough. But if they somehow get into the Champions League this season, Levy or whoever will push back and say, well, they are good enough because they did it. And it's that sort of thinking. It's just enough. We're doing just enough and reaching our goals. So why change it? So yeah, us being in the Champions League, it becomes a double-edged sword, I think.
I mean, let's be honest.
Us dropping out of it and having a terrible end to the season, say, and everyone rounding on the players, rounding on the coaching staff, rounding on the club. By everyone, I mean Spurs fans, commentary, everyone. That's when I think we'll see some movement on, like, okay, this is actually serious. We need to properly think about rebuilding this team, like Pochettino ironically wanted us to. But if we get into the Champions League, then it's Levy can say, well, yeah, I've kind of achieved what I wanted to achieve, so everyone can shut up. And that's a very difficult position for us to be in.
If I'm honest, though, mate, I'm not sure it's something we need to worry about. Right? We'll go. This will be a fun little exercise, right? Let's go through our remaining games, right? And you can just give me a lose, win, draw, right? Brighton at home this weekend.
Positive draw, but probably lose.
I've got us down as a loss for that. So you're saying draw?
Yeah.
No, that's right. Bournemouth at home next weekend.
I could see us losing that one.
Really? I think we'll win that one. I reckon we should have enough. Although somebody made a point to me that they're actually in like really good form now, which is fucking annoying, isn't it? Newcastle, St James's Park. I mean, I think that's going to be ugly. I think we're getting battered in that.
Yeah, we're getting decimated up there. Look what they did to United, and it wasn't so much whoever they were playing; it was just the crowd and everything. It was just we and I was watching that game, Newcastle United. I was Newcastle versus United, and I was just like terrified of our players being in that position because they would just melt away. So yeah, double loss.
I can't remember who it was. I think they were playing like Wolves, weren't they? But it was the weekend when we were up visiting our mutual friend Connor, also a friend of the show, in Newcastle. I remember we watched, I think we were like, let's just go watch the Newcastle game in a pub up there. It'll be a laugh. And before the game in the pub, they were like blasting that Local Heroes song, weren't they? And they were all like proper getting into it. And I was just, it always just makes me think like, fuck man, like in games like this, because we saw what they did to Arsenal, which was good for us last year. I can just see it being a similar sort of thing this year to us. Something horrible. Someone like, I don't know. Is Callum Wilson, is he injured now? Is he out for the season?
He came on, didn't he, against United and scored.
Because he loves like smugging it up against us, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah.
But he's quality, but he's such a tosser.
I hate him.
He's such a tosser. So let's say that's a loss. So we're on debatably, let's say, being positive, we're on 4 points at the moment, but probably realistically maybe 3 or maybe even 1. Manchester United at White Hart Lane, I think we lose annoyingly again.
Objectively, you could say, well, that's a big game. Spurs could be up for it. United are a little bit all at sea after that weird curse of winning the League Cup, where unless you're City, you just seem to put your feet up.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's United, and we just more often than not just can't muster a result against them.
We shit the bed against them, don't we? Every single time. We always have
put it that way. Yeah.
Always have to. Other than behind closed doors, and what was it, 6-2?
Yeah, 6-1.
Right. What? Liverpool. I mean, come on, talking about shit in the bed. Liverpool at Anfield. Well, we know where that one's going, right? Like. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what form they're in. Doesn't matter what form we're in. Just right. So that's another loss. I mean, look, mate. Look, think about that. That's in the space of a week. Newcastle, United, and Liverpool consecutively. That could be 3 L's in a row, man. Like, imagine what this is going to be like. Imagine, like.
God. Like, we can't even get past Everton and Southampton, and we've got those 3 back.
What are we doing? What is it? People's heads are literally going to explode. Like, do you know what I mean? People are going to be like, just getting all weird. They're going to be stripping off naked outside the stadium and throwing poo at it and things.
Catatonic.
Like, it's going to get weird. It's going to be Spurs on Spurs everywhere as well. Like, might try and get a ticket for the Palace game actually with that in mind.
No, because I think we'll win that one. That's one I think we will win.
Yeah, we'll batter them. They're shite. I mean,
and they'll be safe by then, I reckon.
We just played Everton and Southampton though, so I don't think we can. But still, we usually do all right against Palace. Didn't we beat them like, what was it this year? 5-0 at Selhurst?
4-0, wasn't it?
4-0, and they were flying at that point as well, weren't they?
Well, they battered us first half, didn't they?
Yeah, and then we did them. Villa away, we'll definitely lose that. They're really good.
Yep.
Ooh, Brentford, last home game of the season, Brentford.
Depends what shape Brentford are in, but
they're a weird one, aren't they, man? You know what? Let's take this as an opportunity to talk about Thomas Frank, because I see quite a few people fancy the idea of him. I'm not so keen on him, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I've only floated his name as an idea because, in theory, it's kind of the opposite of Brendan Rodgers and what we've done with like Conte and Mourinho, where we seem to be getting good managers, in inverted commas, at the wrong time. Like, after teams have figured out how to play against the way that they set up. With someone like Thomas Frank, it feels like that's not quite happened yet. So I'm not saying he's necessarily the next Guardiola in how he sets out his teams, but it feels like we'd be at the beginning of something rather than the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that. I definitely take that point on board. I mean, I think they're well organised. I don't ever really, in the few times I've watched Brentford, I don't think they're that exciting. And that might be slightly to do with the personnel they've got, but it seems to be a bit, like you say, it is a bit sort of Guardiola-y, right? It's a bit
I mean, they're one of those teams where no one watches them. They only come to people's attention when they've played well or won a game that they shouldn't have done. So they get this kind of skewed opinion of them. It's a bit like James Maddison, who, you know, said to you before, he's a perfect match a day player because he scores a couple of free kicks over the course of 4 weeks and everyone's like, oh, he's brilliant, but then no one else watches him ever, so you don't actually see what's real sort of a player he is. Brentford strike me as the club version of him. But yeah, I think, did we say a draw for that one?
Yeah, I'd go. I mean, when I put this out on Twitter earlier, everyone was like, well, do you think we could get a draw against Brentford? It's like, yeah, I do though, you know? Like, I would like to think we can.
Did we draw against them earlier in the season?
We did, yeah, we did, and that was seen as an epic catastrophe. And then I think they beat Liverpool the week after that, and everyone sort of went quiet.
City around then as well, maybe.
Yeah, and I think, have they done Arsenal this year? They usually beat Arsenal at some point, don't they? Maybe not this year. No, Arsenal won like fucking 3-0 there, didn't they? Yeah. Fuck off, you know. And then last game of the season, Leeds away. We can draw that, right?
Yeah, it depends what Leeds are doing. I think both of those last two games, it depends if Brentford, where they are in the league, what they're challenging for, how focused they are. Same with Leeds. If Leeds are safe, then I can see us battering them. But then by that point, we won't be playing for anything either. So, yeah. We don't tend to draw that many games, though, do we?
No.
Weirdly. Which is odd because remember Conte's whole thing about if you can't win, don't lose. And yet I think we misheard him. It was like, if you can't win, then lose.
Yeah.
So we just don't draw.
So he can have a shout and paddy about it after.
Yeah, so he can
the fucking game.
Leave by mutual consent.
Jesse Marsh is on a free transfer, mate. What about, we spoke about Thomas Frank. You have Jesse Marsh, manager.
I like him. I don't like him as a manager, and I don't want him to manage Spurs. But I've quite warmed. I've warmed to him over the course of his tenure, at least. Again, probably because it hasn't ever really impacted us. But I mean, I can't speak on whether he's a decent, forward-thinking manager or anybody.
He seems like quite a nice man, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think he's quite the way he kind of approaches interviews and things like that. He speaks quite freely, which I think is interesting. So that's why he's kind of stood out to me. But yeah, in terms of manager, I don't know, probably not.
So, a quick rundown again. So it's fucking. Brighton lose, we think. Bournemouth win. Newcastle lose. United lose. Liverpool lose. Palace win. Villa lose. Brentford draw. Leeds probably draw.
Yeah.
Pretty tough, isn't it? It's just going to be. I mean, this is. Do you know what? I'll tell you what does irritate me about this Stellini lark is that the fucking club won't even give us a new manager bounce. You know, like it's like any sort of shredded, like a sort of, like some sort of Victorian, like a kind of, not even that, like even earlier, like one of the old preachers when all the colonists first went out to America and settled out there, and you'd have like an arbiter, do you know what I mean? Some sort of religious figure in these little communities that would tell everybody, no playing music, no frivolity on this day, no whatever meat once the sun's passed a certain point in the sky, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a puritanical monster.
Yeah, exactly. It just feels like the club is that sometimes with us. Like, oh, you're not here to have fun. You're here to just basically be patient, isn't it? Like the whole MO of the club is like, no, we're not here to enjoy anything now. We've got this promise of good times tomorrow, but it's always fucking tomorrow. It's always somewhere over the hill, over the hills and far away.
Yeah,
and then
sunlit uplands.
right, you know. Like, we've just got this. We got to do the hard work now, but we'll get there. But I'm like, where's this fucking end? Like,
yeah, I'm so old. I've been watching this for so long. Oh no, it's just too much.
But you touch on something there, mate, because it's suddenly, and I do wonder if this is like where the panic starts to set in with me, because I'm like, I'm 38 now, right? And I've always had this like mad sort of feeling in the back of my head that like, I'm going to see Tottenham win something big one day, right? One day. Like, we will see it. And I know you don't have any divine right to, but given how sort of the brush we've had with top-end success, and to suddenly see us, like, drifting away from it again, I'm like, it might be another 10 years or so till we're back in the conversation to this. Like, a lot can happen in 10 years, you know?
Yeah. My knees are bad already, mate. I can't get up and down those steps in the stadium. It's going to be another decade. God knows, I must have. Yeah, it's just that, and I think that, you know, we're joking, but I think that is a point. Like, certainly, me, you, and a lot of our sort of mates within a sort of a broadish age bracket, but of similar age and had similar Spurs supporting experiences. We've just had nothing. That doesn't feel very fair.
We've had Ajax. That, you know, but it's not. I know it's not something shiny, but that's...
yeah. But you know what I mean. I think it's coming to the end. I think that's quite a difficult thing to find energy for the next cycle of things.
But this is the issue, right? In that we're told, oh, don't be kind of too entitled, and I think there is something in that. You know, you can't expect to win any of the big trophies. Football's really tough. Great, I get that. But then, why did you knock down our stadium and build like the best stadium in the world? Charge some of the most expensive ticket prices in the world for football, for soccer.
Yeah.
But then, in every other respect, say, oh, well, no, we can't compete. Like, it's really bizarre. I mean, probably an apt point to mention that the club have frozen season ticket prices again this year, which is kind of being seen as something noble. It's the fucking least they could do. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Not to knock a gift horse in the mouth or anything, but come on, you know.
It wouldn't surprise me if the whole leak earlier in the week or whenever it was, where Spurs are considering raising them, was either the club testing the water to see what the reaction would be, which is crazy, or just a kind of way of doing that and then saying that they were freezing them as a weird like PR move to show how much they care, which, as you say, it's the least they could do anyway.
What do you want to see happen for the rest of the season, mate? Like, do you think it's Stellini till the end of the year, or do you think actually if we start picking it, if we get done by Brighton, can you see them being like, fuck, we actually need to step up we have to bring somebody in?
I can't see that. I can't see them deciding to do that now. It just feels like they are quite content to let things slide. There's nothing to suggest otherwise. That's the problem. What I want to see for the end of the season, I want to see us win all the games, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find it so hard to kind of be. You might have noticed. Find it so hard to be positive about it. And in an objective way as well. That's the thing. It's such a bizarre situation that we found ourselves in again. That I don't know. Stellini to the end of the season. I mean, if that wasn't the plan that they were quite entrenched in, then we wouldn't even be talking about it. We surely have a manager by now.
But that leads us to Pochettino, right?
Yeah. Back to what we were talking about at the start. And my point is that if we were considering Pochettino, and Pochettino was the oh, get him back in, even for cynical reasons, just to placate the thicko fans, as they see us. Oh, we'll just get him in and everyone will shut up. We would have done it already. I can't see the reason why we wouldn't. And, you know, Pochettino talking to Chelsea, apparently, I don't know how true that is or accurate that is. That smacks to me as Pochettino's leaking. I don't think he has representatives or whatever, but, you know, him putting word out that other clubs are interested to get us moving, and we're still not bothering. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Daniel Levy won't sign off on that, or the club won't sign off that, because it would essentially be admitting a big mistake and knowing that they would have to back him. If they get him, they would have to back him like he wanted after the Champions League final. And I just don't think they want to touch that with a barge pole.
But the mad thing is, mate, like it just feels now like that's, you can't have that level of ego at this. You've got to, somebody like Daniel Levy needs to be able to shelve that, right? Because outside of Nagelsmann or somebody like De Zerbi, who I'll be honest with you, mate, I'm not even that sold on De Zerbi, right? Because look at Brighton, right? Post Potter.
Exactly.
They've been pretty decent, man. So how much of that is De Zerbi and how much of that is just Brighton being a sensationally run club? You know?
Well, exactly. Like Potter going to Chelsea, and if Potter was like an amazing success, then that would make De Zerbi look better. But because he's been a disaster and Brighton have just continued on their progress since when he was there, you do question, well, how much of this is that Brighton are just a superbly run club and just find amazing players in the market for very little money? Again, yeah. So he's unproven to me. I mean, I don't know. I think he'd be quite expensive, and he doesn't want to move until the summer anyway. That's the noises coming out of his camp. So
it just leads me back to the place where I'm like, you know, the point I was going to make is that surely just the smart decision now is Pochettino. He's there. He's right there. He knows the club. It will give, let's be honest, it will give 95% of the fans a massive lift. If he walked out at that Palace game, even after 3 losses, if we lost 3 in a row, Newcastle, Manchester United, Liverpool, and then bang, after Liverpool, they were like, fuck it, push the button, bring him home, get Pochettino in. I guarantee the stadium would be rammed and it would be buzzing against Palace. People would forget the last 3 horrible results and it would be his magic, you know. He'd be waving at the crowd. And you would suddenly start to feel like we've at least got a fucking idea again. We were at least kind of, all right, we didn't win anything under him the last time, and what's to say, you know, we'll get anywhere close to how good it was the last time. However, at the moment, it feels like, and I really do, you know, it feels almost dramatic to say, but the club is really, feels like it is in crisis at the moment. It really does. And with that, whether it's a sticking plaster or not, it feels like at least the club is kind of reclaiming a bit of itself again, you know? We can tick off the box of like the unfinished business or whatever that we've got with him. And we've just got a geezer that knows the club. He knows what the fans want. He can sort of speak our language, if you like, other than when he's going on about lemons and stuff. And it would just allow people to, because it's been, we've had the Arsenal game, but other than that, it's not been a fun few years, really, has it? Since 2019.
Not in the slightest. I mean, look, so we're playing Brighton at home, aren't we, next on Saturday? If that goes badly, as in, you know, we lose 3-0 or 4-0 or something quite bad, a terrible similar sort of performance like we saw after we went a goal up against Everton, that the atmosphere in the stadium will turn really, and that itself could suddenly prompt the club to change tack and just be like, shit, well, let's just get Pochettino in, just so that doesn't happen again, just so that they're placated for a bit. which doesn't fill me with confidence either. I know this is a hypothetical situation that I've just created and now getting annoyed about it. But
isn't that what like 90% of life's about, mate? Just getting annoyed about. If I walk down here and this sort of person says that sort of thing to me, then I'll say, find yourself getting wound up about it. I do it all the fucking time.
Yeah. What's the matter, love? Yeah. Nothing.
I'm just thinking about this imaginary scenario where a man has said something to me.
Yeah. So I'm no clearer after this chat. Are you?
Not whatsoever, mate. But I kind of get the vibe you're more lukewarm, should we say, on Poch's return.
No. I mean, I'd be there with everybody singing his magic. I just do not trust what the club are doing. That's a problem. And this scenario that I have, again, this hypothetical, but I think this is less hypothetical. Say if we got him in now, unless there's a change in culture in how this club is approaching things, as I said before, unless it adopts what Pochettino himself told us after the Champions League final, we just end up sacking him again. And that would just be so heartbreaking. It's not so much about me. I want to protect Mauricio from us. It's like almost like he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve being treated this way. That's what I'm worried about. And we can't go on like this, pretending like we're a big club and just getting sticking plasters. What I'd love it if we got Pochettino in and a massive war chest and said, yeah, you're right. Here we go. Get rid of all these players who've been here for too long, whether they're decent or not. We just need a refresh. We need a restart. Let's go. Great. I can't see that happening. I'm just so worried about Pochettino being brought in just as a bit of a placebo to everything that's going on.
Look, let's do it. Come on, this pod's been a misery as it is anyway. Harry Kane.
It's not our fault, is it?
Well, no. And we deal with what we've been. I was going to use another food metaphor. Then I was going to say we deal with what we've been served or something. I'm not fucking. Just have another yogurt.
It's like when you're at an all-you-can-eat restaurant, right?
Yeah. Harry Kane, though.
Positivity.
But there's no positivity to be had, really, is there? Because
let's think of a hypothetical one, because we have been hypothesising about. Harry Kane is leaving.
Yeah, right. He's going. Look at this. What's happening now? Because I was. Oh God, it's just.
But this is what I was saying before. Like, it's so hard to think of a positive scenario to come because everything is just. You say, are we a club in crisis? We've got like 4 crises going on. Harry Kane, our best player ever, is not going to sign the new contract, so he's going. We don't have a manager. We don't have a director of football. And the culture of our club is a mess.
We'll let everyone in on this, Phil. So Phil and I have a sort of expression with one another. When you think about certain things make you miserable, there's it's the "you've been framed" effect, right, Phil?
Yeah.
Do you care to expand on the "you've been framed" effect before I make my point on why I am bringing up the "you've been framed" effect?
If you just remember when we used to watch You've Been Framed in the 90s, and it would just be, you can imagine it's like someone's Christmas morning and someone's like falling into a Christmas tree, or dad's having a go on a pogo stick and just like stacking it or whatever. Just imagine that scene. Imagine like the brown carpet, the kind of bad clothes. That just
is awful, tight Levi's stonewashed, aren't they?
He's wearing a tie like at home. Like just this weird...
Just a jumper that says like Daytona on it or something. Do you know what I mean? It'll always be maroon and dark green, Yeah. And those big glasses as well. Massive glasses.
It conjures up like old hat, cheap, depressing lives, essentially. But
it's like when he's... What's the film when James Franco's chopping his arm off, based on the true story?
127 hours, is it?
Yeah. The kind of bit when he's like, when he hits the nerve, as he's cutting through his arm, he hits it, and it. That's what that sort of "you've been framed" effect is, right? It's like it's like the inverse of nostalgia, right? It's when you sort of think about something, but it makes you really unhappy, and it just, I don't know. It's just like there's an all-encompassing sort of ennui about it. It's like really miserable. I think about this. I had this, Harry Kane, right? They were talking because he broke the, if you weren't aware, he broke Tottenham's all-time goal-scoring record.
Oh, did he?
And
the goals?
Yeah, and the club put out that video of all his goals, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say.
And then I was suddenly seeing all the ones in the old kits and him in 2014, and then I was suddenly like, it's 2023, like
4:3 aspect ratio for some reason,
and
in 2014.
Still, this fella has gone from being like the maligned youth team player that we all took the piss out of.
Yeah, some like rosy-cheeked puppy dog.
To being this like aspirational superstar, now with his haircuts and his kind of charity work and stuff like that.
And his literal being England's greatest goal scorer.
And we've won fuck all. And so now, just looking at all these old videos, I just find it quite, you've been framed, quite miserable, quite depressing. And it shouldn't be that way. But it just is. And I really just think now, when I just see this season, I see him again, fucking just behind Erling Haaland, the monster, the freakish Erling Haaland at the top of the Premier League goal scoring charts. Kane's still up there punching with him. And really, like, you cannot, I hate feeling this sort of self-defeatist way, but I cannot blame the fella at all for thinking, fuck, just get me out of here, because he must be thinking that, right? Just get me out of here.
He has to, and he should. The thing is, he should be. He should be. As much as I don't want to admit that, he should be, because this story ends that Harry Kane being the Spurs' greatest goal scorer, stroke player, ends with someone saying, "Didn't win anything with you, though, did he?" Whether he goes this season or at the end of his contract. So he just, it's so Tottenham, isn't it? It's just so Tottenham.
Do you
is that positive?
No. Do you sell him this summer for, say, because there's all this kind of talk that we've been offered Emerick Laporte, right? Laporte, whatever. Like there's just that nagging suspicion, based on absolutely nothing other than me gut, that is maybe City being like, come on, look, we offered you Laporte before, 70 mil. Kane's only got a year left in his contract. It's a few years on, but look, we'll give you Laporte, swing you 30, 40 mil as well for him. Let's just do it now. Would you take it?
Getting your foot in the door, pretending you're like a double glazing salesman or a conservatory salesman, and then robbing the place. It's basically what they're doing.
Exactly, but do you take it now, or is he worth more to the club, even if we lose him on a free transfer? Because I'm so torn on this, mate. I'm so torn on the sort of value we can get for him this summer, just because we don't want to lose him for nothing. But we're talking about getting James Maddison for £50 million. Are we going to get offered more than that for literal Harry Kane? A player who is priceless to the club. Like, is it worth us just taking that 50 mil for him? Like, do you know what I mean?
No, categorically no. There's been absolutely mad figures banded around. People saying that it's still like 100 million, which wherever I've seen that, 100 million is a different conversation, but I don't think it's a likely one. So if we just say if someone's willing to pay us a lot to get him out of his last year of his contract, then no, absolutely not. We are so dependent on him. Look at this season, man. Look at the goals we've conceded. That's relegation level, and that's not an opinion. That's a fact. Without Harry Kane, we'd be in massive trouble next season, and I just don't think we're in a position yet to build a team thinking he's gone. We need another year another 2 transfer window to get us into a position where we can deal without, or not. It's still going to be absolutely awful and so difficult, but I don't think we're in any position to, as I say, build a squad. No matter how much money we're given, really, we need so many. We need 2-3 more transfer windows, two transfer windows to get our squad ship shape. So no, we've got to keep him. His goals are so important.
It doesn't help that Sonny's seemingly just done now either, does it?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the kind of the feeling I've had with Sonny all season is that the whole career tour and that whole, you know, doing those sprints up and down the pitch that we all saw, we were like, yeah, go on, get into him, Antonio, make him work. I think that's kind of broken him a bit. I think it's changed his kind of muscle mass or his balance or something, and that's a big reason why he's not playing. But and he's sort of playing in a different position, but that shouldn't be, you know, that shouldn't affect your touch necessarily. So I'm not. I know you've kind of raised this a couple of times that whether he's suddenly just dropped off a cliff, and that could be possible. But I'm still holding out a little bit of hope that it's just he needs sort of training methods more built around the player he is, rather than trying to make him something different. Because wasn't it like this came out, I think, in the aftermath or just before Conte was sacked, that Conte was getting him to run 2 kilometres before every match or something.
Yeah, all of them, I think.
No wonder they just look shot to bits. That's ridiculous. So I'm again, it might not be this, but I'm hoping that Sonny just needs a bit of a rest and a bit of a manager who knows how to use him. To be honest,
like let's put, you know, bravado.
Plus, can I just say on Son as well? Actually, there's no way we're selling him before his contract's up.
Oh no.
He's ended his contract at Spurs.
Because
of the commercial element of it. So,
and I just think he actually really is a big lift around the place. I think, you know.
Yeah.
He's one of the captains, and we can't. It's like the Berbatov and Keane thing all over again. We can't lose Sonny and Kane at the same time. Do you know what I mean? You just can't. You can't do that. Refresh or not, that's not good for the club. Like, it just nah.
No. I mean, the refresh is more about keeping your good players and getting rid of the 12 other players.
Hugo's got to go. I mean, God, that performance against Everton, you know, shaky, awful.
Encapsulated everything that's been wrong with him for his career with us. Not that he's been terrible for his whole career, but the problems he's had are just now so exacerbated by his age or his just whatever. But yeah, I mean,
Eric Dyer, shocking. You know, Eric,
and that's it.
Making fucking excuses for him all year. Oh, he'll be a good squad player. Just fuck him off.
That's it.
Get rid of him.
We don't need this idea that we need a strong 11 and then a good backup. We don't. We need 5 or maybe 6 excellent players. I mean, like Bentancur, Kulusevski, Kane's son, you know, defender, whatever. And then you just need players who are good, and that if they get rotated, there's a not much of a difference between how we play or the quality that we can put on the pitch. And that should be achievable. If someone like Brighton can be signing these players for around 20 million or under 20 million, those players are out there, is my point. But whether we can do that or not, I don't know.
Bravado aside.
Sporting director, we can't anyway.
No. Bravado aside, clap. Anything positive to end on, mate? Is it because I need some help finding it at the moment?
It is just so difficult. It is. I feel really kind of like the last bit of positivity has been wrung out of me, because I like Stellini, and I thought, well, you know what, Stellini's got something about him, I think. And the players just really kind of let him down on, when was it, Monday? And so I'm just like, I can't even root for this guy now, because it's just the glaring issues with the problems that we have are just so obvious now. So it is just so hard to find any positivity. Like, so we've got like Mundell, or is it Mundell? I don't know how to pronounce it. I apologise, but you think, oh, that's great. We've got a young player in the squad now. That's always exciting. But we don't know if he's going to be here next season, because he won't sign a contract. So even something like that, something so simple as like, oh, a young player comes from the academy, we can get behind that. Even that we seem to have fucked up.
Well, Alfred Devine, another, desperate to play more first team football, apparently.
Yeah.
Won't let him anywhere near it. You know, young, creative, attacking midfielder that we are absolutely crying out for, and we just won't let to dare us to do, man. Like, what's going on? You know?
To dare us to do. Just do, right? Stop daring.